Hey everyone, in this video we'll talk about a basic terminology of AI, or you can say LLMs. Whenever we are in a conversation with somebody regarding this AI system, whether it's a large language model or chatgpt or any of the AI models, we have certain terminology. So for example, we have what is LLM. This is something which we will go and get a little bit of definition, but we can see like what is inferencing, training, parameters, tokens, context window, prompts, agents. So these are the very basic AI terminologies. So the goal of this video is we will just learn what those terminologies are. For example, what is the difference between inferencing and training? What are parameters? Learn everything about this terminology. So whenever you are having any conversation related to the AI models, you should have a pretty basic understanding of what are the common terminology. Let's talk about a very basic one. What is LLM? We all know in this age of AI, because we are constantly on the daily basis chatting with ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the LLM model. But what is this LLM model? So in a nutshell, large language models are nothing but AI system which are trained on a very massive amount of data. You can think of it like a very large set of data, all the books, all the websites, and all the data we have available. All these AI companies take those data and they train all this large language model. The goal of these models to understand and generate the human-like language. So you can see like with the help of this LLM, you can talk to them in any language. It doesn't matter. You can talk to them in English, you can talk to them in Hindi or any other language which are like supported by this model, or whatever the data in that language is used to train this LLM, right? But the way it works is by predicting the next word or token in a sequence which allow it to answer any question, summarize email, and in certain cases, if the model is supported, you can even generate the images and videos. This is what the LLMs are. I mean, on the daily basis, we go to ChatGPT and I can just say, hi, how are you? And then it will just, you are feeding this text to that LLM and it will just give you a reply. The second terminology is inferencing versus training. Training is nothing but when these big AI companies, they take all the data and feed it to a system and which produce this model, right? So it takes all this data, they massage it, they clean it, and they train these huge models, and the output of the training is a model. For example, in OpenAI case, it's nothing but the ChatGPT model. In Google case, it's a Gemini series of models. Training is the process where we take this data and we feed it to the system and we kind of train it and it generates the model. And the inferencing is nothing but, let's say, once we have that model available and whenever we are talking to that model, that is nothing but inferencing. A very basic example we can think of it like, let's say you are teaching a student from a textbook, and that we can consider it as a training. And then whenever you're asking a student bunch of questions from whatever that student learned from that textbook, we can consider it as an inferencing. The next terminology is parameters. So let's say whenever you are discussing and whenever you are reading about this LLM models, you will often hear like this is a 120 billion parameters model, this is like a 12 billion parameter, this is like a 400 billion parameters. So even if you see, if I go to this Olama, this is nothing but a set of open source model. So let's say if I go into the DeepSeek R1, and you will see often like this is 1.5 billion parameter model, this is like 7 billion parameter, and even if I click on this, you can see like, hey, this model is trained on 7.62 billions of parameter. But what are these parameters? These parameters are just internal numbers, because these models, they don't understand the words, right? So this, you can consider these parameters are nothing but just a numbers, and internally they often call it as weights and biases. And whenever we train this model, all these numbers are used. The basic example, you can think of it from a parameter perspective. Let's think of it as a radio, right? When you see a very old radio system, you have a knob and you can tune that knob, and then you can hear on any frequency, you can hear a song or something like that. So you can think of it like there are billions of knobs and you can tune this knob, and then the AI will generate the series of text. The next one is tokens and pricing. So what are tokens? Tokens are chunks of text that model process. A token could be a whole word or a part of a word. A very basic thing which we can see from a token perspective is, so the way the OpenAI take your word, whatever you're typing, and converted it to a token, there's a simple website called Tokenizer. We can go and we can see like how OpenAI treat our words and converted it to token, and then we can even take that particular particular series of numbers and we can convert it back to text. So let's say if I type hi comma how are you, so you can see these words are getting converted into 6 tokens. All this tokenization system can be differed by a different provider and different models, but here you can see in case of GPT-4o and GPT-4o mini, and I think this same system is used by the GPT-5 models as well. So you can see this particular text get converts into 6 tokens, okay, and we have a 16 characters. And if I click on this token ID, you can see this all different token get converted into this series of numbers. When we talk to ChatGPT, when I insert like hey how are you, the ChatGPT is gonna take this particular text, convert it into token, and process this series of token through a large language model. The ChatGPT is gonna get output in terms of token, and it get decoded again in whatever the response, and that's what we see on the screen. So this is like we are saying like I'm doing well, thanks for asking, how about you? And this is a very important thing, because whenever you are talking about the pricing, right, of this LLM model, they often get measured in terms of how many input token that model is processing and how many output token that model is generating. So for example, if I go to this, there's a simple website called models.dev. You can see all the AI models and from all the provider, and you can compare their price and everything. As you can see, I search for GPT-5, but if I remove that filter, you can see there are a series of model available from different providers, be it Anthropic, OpenRouter, Google, Azure, a lot of other providers. So let's say if I just do GPT-5, and then we'll see like hey, these are the bunch of providers which are providing this GPT-5 model, and you can see Azure is one of them, GitHub Copilot, OpenAI, of course, and then we have a Versal Gateway and Open Router as well. So here, if you can see the pricing of these models, right? So it's kind of measured in terms of token. So if you see the GPT-5 model, right, the input token. So let's say if we are inputting anything to a model, let's say if I type hi, how are you? So if I convert that series of text, and if that text, let's say if it's a huge amount of text and it get converted into 1 million token as an input, then $1.25 will be charged. But that doesn't mean, let's say if I put a simple hi how are you, based on this pricing model, it will get divided into whatever that precision amount will be, and I will be charged based on that. And then same, whenever that model is returning any response to us, right? So let's say in our case, it returned I'm doing well, thank you for asking, how about you? So if I copy this and go to tokenizer, and let's say if I paste, and you can see these are nothing but 13 tokens, and based on those 13 token, if it reaches to 1 million output token, then the cost will be $10. And these are the cache read. All these providers, we can do a bit of caching on their side, and if providing the context and we are reading that, and then the price will be a little bit cheaper. So this is what the tokens are. It is very important to understand what tokens are in order to measure the cost of any of models. Next, let's talk about context window. This is similar to in terms of tokens only. So let's say whenever we are talking to any model, right, or whenever we are, let's say we are in this chat, right, so there are certain limit or certain context window in terms of token which are set by these providers. It should be supported by that model as well. So let's say if I continue this conversation for, let's say, about an hour, there's a possibility if I say, hey, my name is this, and you remember this name, and then there's a possibility there might be like a 256,000 token context window, and in between if I ask who am I, and then it will say, hey, this is your name and this is about your information. But let's say if we are out of that context window, then it will forget about me, it will forget about that conversation. So you can think of it like a short-term memory which this LLM model have whenever we are talking. And here you can see like based on the model, like what is the context. So if I could see like these are the GPT-5 model, and we can say these are 272,000 context limit, and this is nothing but the output limit, like how much output it can generate at a time. And then you can see all these different models. So for example, if I do GPT-4.1, I think it has a 1 million token context window. So this is very important. Let's say whenever you are building any AI application, and when the user or your agent or anything interacting with this model based on that conversation, that particular context window is very important, so that it doesn't hallucinate anything related to any of the information. The next terminology which we are going to talk about is prompt. Whatever input we type to this AI model, they are considered as a prompt. And there's another terminology called prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is nothing but like, hey, when you are very specific about, so for example, I can say give me trip planning to Mumbai for 2 days. Okay, so this is just a simple prompt, and I'm just asking like, hey, I'm planning planning for a trip from Mumbai, you just give me a detail and you can see like, hey, it gives a little bit of information. Hey, for 2 days, this can be your itinerary. But let's say if I give a very specific prompt, okay, in which I'm saying, hey, I'm visiting a Mumbai for 2 days and planning to roam around the city in a night for a duration of 3 hours after my meeting. Now give me any places or suggestions. So you're just doing a scoping down and you're doing a little bit of prompt engineering to get exactly what you want, rather than just providing, hey, I'm visiting a Mumbai, give me a plan detail. Now I'm being a very, very specific over here, and based on that, it will give me a very tailored result only to visit the Mumbai for the night time, and it will give me a duration, anything which can be covered in like 3 hours drive or walk. So I think, yeah, this is like scope down, like, hey, these are the places you can visit at the night in the Mumbai, and this is great. This is what we call it as a prompt engineering, but it's a very basic example. Let's say in terms of programming, if you want to get any code, or if you want to generate any website, and you can be very, very, very specific about it, and you can craft a very beautiful prompt. Based on that, you will get a very beautiful result. So very important terminology and very important concept whenever we are interacting with any of the AI models. Okay, the other thing is like agents. These are the very buzzing thing right now. Everybody's talking about agent, but just I want to give a very simple definition what agents are. So let's say we have this LLMs, okay, and LLMs has like a very specific cut date, right? They don't know anything about after their training date. So we have this LLM. In this case, it can just chat. It has a bunch of trained data, but apart from that, we don't have anything, right? So what we could do, we could give a couple of skill to this particular model. Okay, so what we could do, we could say, hey, you can talk to API, and then we can say, okay, you can browse web. Okay, and we can say, hey, you can browse web. Also, let's say we can even give like a little bit of memory. So whenever we're interacting with this particular model, we have a bunch of memory. And when you take all these skills and you package, we can call it as an agent. This is a very basic example. It can get very complex. It can do a lot of iteration on its own. A very basic example we can take, let's say there's an agent. You go and tell, okay, I want to visit to Paris at this time of month, and then give me a plan itinerary and the cheapest ticket available and everything. And that agent goes and search all the web and find all the relevant information and give you the cheapest traveling options. So you can call it as a traveling agent. Okay, so the agents are nothing but like it can take a lot of actions on behalf of you, and the LLMs are nothing but we do a bunch of back and forth communication. So I think, yeah, these are the couple of terminologies which I thought I should play in, and it will help us a lot in our next series of videos regarding the AI model. Thank you so much. Have a great day.